What's up, guys? It's Nick Davenport, aka Mr. Mental Muscle. Back again. It's been a while since I made a video, but we're going to get back into the swing of things. Now, today we're going to talk about a topic from our cognitive conditioning methods called Aristotle Endurance. Now, you're wondering, where does that term even come from? Now, if you're familiar with Aristotle, who was also the tutor of the great Alexander the Great, then you know that this guy was a Greek philosopher who had many different methods of learning, and one of them was called the Peripatetic School. What this means, literal translation, is to walk about. So what Aristotle would do his teachings and lectures while walking about his school called the Lyceum. Now, this is something we do in Mind Body One, thinking and moving. So it's only right that we name it after this great philosopher, Aristotle. Now, how we do this in our actual practice can be done in many ways. We do it such as doing different physical tasks under fatigue, and then immediately going to a mental task, or either combining that mental task while doing that physical task. Today, we're gonna do just that. Now, we're gonna use an app called Soma NPT. We're gonna do a Stroop Test. Now, Soma is an app I've been using for about 3-4 years now. It's a great app with over 60 tasks to choose from based off of real cognitive tests. So you should give it a try. I'll put the download link in the box, so let me know what you think. But anyway, the Stroop Test itself is one of the oldest tasks in the book. It actually was started by a guy named John Ridley Stroop back in the 1930s. And his objective was to see, how do we take in information and able to stop it when we want unwanted things to happen. So in the case, he used colors that were incongruent with the words. So for example, red would be written in blue, and since it was in blue ink, you would say blue instead. So that's what's gonna happen on this task today. But remember, it's an Aristotle Endurance task. So I'm gonna have to be doing something physical too. So what I'm gonna be doing, I'm gonna be riding a spin bike. So we're gonna go 10 minutes. So I have to stay focused, making sure I hit the color, not the word. So once again, if it says red, but it's written in green, I hit the green button. These are the directions, and the goal is to be consistent, accurate, and fast throughout the whole time. So we gotta make sure we're not just quick, but we need to be consistent so we know that we're unchanged despite how fatigued we got or how long we got. The reason we do this is because our brain actually takes in stimuli for pain and fatigue in the same regions. This is called the anterior cingulate cortex, or the ACC for short. Now, when we take in this stimuli, the pain receptors are still trained from a mental perspective, so it allows us to go further because now we're enduring it mentally, so our body kind of adapts and adjusts. And this is great just to add to your workouts if you just don't want to go through the monotony of spinning or running for a long duration of time. So that's why I like it. But anyway, let's get into it without further ado and get our minds right. Now let's go over again the reasons and overview why we're going to do this task. Now, one, physical pain and fatigue and mental pain and fatigue are processed in the same regions of the brain. That's the ACC. Remember that. Now, while doing it under pressure and fatigue, it makes us have to focus and work harder, so that's a challenge in itself. But also, it shows us how we're able to process cognitive and mental functions when we get tired, so that way we know how hard or how easy the training actually is, and we can improve upon it. And the last part I like to emphasize is, if you're able to do these simultaneously, it kind of makes the job easier in the sense of you don't have to think about the fatigue that's happening in real time. So there's so many aspects that this helps us with. So whether you're an endurance athlete or just a general practitioner of fitness, this helps with your workouts and overall brain function.
So let's take a look at my results. My accuracy, this is how correct I was 97% out of 100, so that's pretty good. Time, that's your reaction time. I did 481 milliseconds, or 481 seconds, which is a little under half a second, which is still good. You want to be typically under 0.6 of a second. My speed was 2.14. This is the rate of reaction time. So basically, I would get 2.14 reactions per second, so like miles per hour, kind of. And RCS is how fast I was when I was correct, so it's kind of like speed. So I was 2.03 correct scores per second. Now, this is a baseline, so it's something we do so we have a comparison to when I do it with the physical task, the Aristotle conditioning task. So this gives us something to shoot for, and let's get into the task and get our minds right. So yeah, that was quite a adventure right there. So let's take a look at the scores of my second run after doing the 10-minute ride. So I did 100% accuracy, so I did better there. So I had a few mess ups on the first run, but it's not too different. It's not statistically significant. But what I want to take a look at is my variation. So I didn't mention this, but I put a little caption over it. I did 18% on the first one. So that's how consistent, meaning only 18% of the time I deviated from my typical speed. So that's good. You don't want to be too high on that. You want that score to be lower. So you notice I did 26%, which is almost 10% higher. So that is a decent little change. Now you can maybe attribute it to the fact that I was getting more tired. I had to focus. I'm pedaling my legs, so there's a lot going on. There's extra movements, and that's something you can look at. Am I more consistent when I'm fatigued versus when I'm not fatigued? And you can compare, contrast these two measures. Now, if you look at my reaction time, it's also a little bit higher. Now you can say, oh, it's 0.481 to 0.538. That's not a huge difference. It's a little less than 500ths of a second, but you can say when it's this small of a margin, when you come to milliseconds, that is a decent increase in my reaction. Also, you can see my speed and rate of correct score also went down, meaning I wasn't as consistent when I was fast. So these scores tell a lot. So like I say, this is a good tell of how does an athlete or someone get altered by being more fatigued, because when we talk about mental training, it's not just about how fast you can react, but it's how can you do things when there's other variables. In this case, physical load was increased. I was getting more tired. It was 10 minutes versus 1 minute, so I had to be more focused. Like I said, that ACC, that's where we factor in physical and mental fatigue. So if we can train this and get it stronger, it can make us more resilient to being tired under pressure and also not losing focus when we need it the most. So you can see how this can contribute to sports or even just everyday life. So I'm big on measurement, and you can see you can measure all this. So like I said, the Soma app is a great tool that we use here. I'll put the link to that in the description. But yeah, so that was a great run. I loved it. I hope you guys got something from this. Make sure you like the channel, share, and subscribe. And remember, guys, get your mind right.